The left is controlling Twitter's board rather than take this offer, which is arguably in their best business interests and the best business interests of the company and the shareholders, have decided they'd rather harm the company, it looks like, potentially, than let Elon Musk come in, take over Twitter, use his expertise and entrepreneurial skills to advance the interests of the company while encouraging and promoting free speech and trying to avoid censorship wherever possible. First up is an important story about free speech and big tech. And if you're not on Twitter, you should be following the news about what's going on Twitter, specifically with respect to Elon Musk's bid to buy Twitter. Now, Musk is worth nearly $300 billion as a result of his success with Tesla and other business ventures. And he's someone who appreciates free speech. I don't know if he's a conservative in the way I'm a conservative, but he certainly isn't interested in throwing people off the Twitter platform because individuals don't conform to the leftist nostrums on elections or COVID or transgender extremism or whatever else the left has decided it needs to enforce censorship over. And so Twitter, of course, is a left-wing company that, in my view, has lied repeatedly to regulators, to the American people, to users, to Congress, and to shareholders about its censorship policies. I know specifically I was censored and locked out of Twitter over a tweet that I had, that specifically had been previously approved by Twitter as being within their rules. And then they decided it was not within their rules. And I know Judicial Watch and my tweets have been censored and suppressed as it relates to the elections, as it relates to COVID. I can't even track the number of times I've been censored and Judicial Watch has been suppressed on Twitter. Same goes for Facebook. Same goes for YouTube. And anyone who tells you this is a private affair, these are private companies and they have the rights to do that, they're just whistling past the graveyard in terms of the ultimate accountability that is available or ought to be available to the victims of this. And the accountability that would be available to government regulators if they decide to enforce the laws as I think they should be enforced, which is that you can't engage in fraud. You can't tell people that you're censoring them for one reason when in fact you're doing it for political, ideological reasons that are completely arbitrary and capricious. So what happened is Elon Musk is offered to buy Twitter, and they made him an offer that no rational person or few rational people would refuse. Which is a valuation of the company well beyond its current valuation and arguably far well beyond its current valuation. So because the left thinks of Twitter as a kind of a key platform from which to enforce their censorship against their political opponents, such as Judicial Watch and people like Elon Musk, and of course, famously President Trump, who was thrown off improperly by Twitter, they've gone to war against Elon Musk. You've had the Saudi Arabian, one of their fronts, announce that they would reject Elon Musk's offer as not being appropriate because evidently this fund owns some shares in Twitter or significant shares in Twitter. And just before I came on to talk about this, it was announced that the Twitter board of directors were signing on to what is called a poison pill. Now, I'm not going to pretend to be, Wall Street Tom here, but I know a little bit about it, and my understanding of it generally is poison pills are schemes. It doesn't mean they're illegal, but they're schemes. Plans by corporations who don't like the idea of being taken over by an outside investor or an inside investor. And one way to stall and delay or make impossible a hostile takeover is to essentially dilute the value of the shares so that it becomes significantly more difficult for someone seeking to gain a majority stake, a controlling stake in a company, to do so. And that's what they're doing to Elon Musk. And the problem with doing something like that, sometimes it's successful, is that it dilutes the shareholders, the value of the shareholders' assets in the company. When you make more shares and devalue them, obviously your investment is lessened. And when that happens, obviously the company's health is lessened. So the left is controlling Twitter's board rather than take this offer, which is arguably in their best business interests and the best business interests of the company and the shareholders, have decided they'd rather harm the company, it looks like, potentially, than let Elon Musk come in, take over Twitter, use his expertise and entrepreneurial skills to advance the interests of the company while encouraging and promoting free speech and trying to avoid censorship wherever possible. And that's where we stand. And of course, the left media is all against this. Twitter employees who are, I don't know if they're all of the left, but largely of the left, they're all outraged about this. And as I said, you had the Saudi government or government front announce its opposition. And lo and behold, it's announced this just as I'm coming on to talk about this, that the Biden administration is investigating Elon Musk. So this is what's going to happen. Elon Musk is going to be treated like Trump. No rules will be followed. He won't be given the equal protection of the law that is required for U.S. citizens. All the tools available to the government, the media, political, cultural, economic complex that is largely controlled by the left they will all be used against him, and they will target him to stop Elon Musk, who has this independent power because of his astonishing wealth to break the Great Suppression. This is what I've been calling it, and I've often observed that we're in the middle of the Great Suppression, where our big tech platforms, the ones where most of the people are, now there are alternatives, but there aren't a lot of people on those alternatives yet, are suppressing speech. They're censoring speech, suppressing it, vandalizing it with false statements about its validity or certainty. And as a result, you have many people, I know there are some platforms like on YouTube. If I say something specific about the elections, I know YouTube will take down the video. So I have to be careful about what I say. Now, does it mean I will never say it? No, because then we'll just, we won't post it on YouTube. We'll post it somewhere else. Same thing goes on Twitter. You say the wrong thing about a certain topic, they will take you down. Even though that, quote, wrong thing is perfectly appropriate to say, and its wrongness only is that it counters the leftist narrative on whatever the issue is. And so Elon Musk is a deadly threat to this great suppression that's being enforced on platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Google. And so that's why they don't want him to run the company. It's not about business. It's about this Marxist totalitarianism, which is really taking over our national discourse. And so Judicial Watch is going to do what we ordinarily do, which is that we're going to investigate the Biden administration's attack on Elon Musk. We're going to investigate to see if the Biden administration was talking to the Saudis about going after Elon Musk and opposing his bid. And because, again, this is not a fight about the business profits in Twitter. If that were the case, there'd be no question about what Twitter would be doing in response to Elon Musk's takeover effort. They say, sure, this is great money. It's great money for the company. It's great money for the shareholders. But because it's about politics, the economics won't apply here. And of course, that raises legal questions for the Twitter board, because if they're doing something at odds with their fiduciary duties, then they could be subject to litigation and other sanctions and other investigations, at least from the federal government. But of course, it's controlled by the Biden administration. Let's put it this way. If Tesla's board did what Twitter's board did in terms of a poison pill, similarly situated, the Biden administration would be on it like, whatever metaphor you want to use. They'd be on it in a heartbeat. But here, you can bet the Biden administration has probably been, and I suspect this to be the case, and we'll be investigating it. We are investigating it, colluding with Twitter's board to figure out ways to thwart Elon Musk. And you can be sure that other government agencies are doing the same thing. At the state level, we've already highlighted how state agencies who are organized again against conservatives because of the people who control them, were encouraging Twitter and getting Twitter and YouTube, which is controlled by Google, and Facebook, to censor and suppress posts, including posts by me, where I was talking for Judicial Watch on factual issues related to election integrity. So I know I'm not the only victim. I know many of you are victims. And even if you don't know it, you're a victim. If you're a conservative, because they are policing content in a way that doesn't let you see things that you otherwise would see, but for the suppression. I mean, I have a page on Facebook. We have the Judicial Watch page. I have a group. It's under Tom Fitton, and then I also have a page, Real Tom Fitton. And they've labeled my page, and they label posts by Judicial Watch and me of related Judicial Watch content as being, COVID related, which makes it harder to share it and which suppresses its reach. So this is material that perhaps you could have seen on Facebook if you're on Facebook, but for this interference with our ability to get the word out to you. So that's the concern we have. And it's really shady. And in the meantime, this is what I suggest Elon Musk does. And if you're a shareholder and you've got enough shares to trigger the law, you should do it too, which is a request from Twitter, a full audit and analysis and documents about its censorship policies, how they're being done. The law requires shareholders gain access to certain information about business operations. Elon Musk should begin an investigation now as a key shareholder. I think he was number one until, I guess, one of the big funds is now number one. But as someone who owns nearly 10% of the company, he has a right, obviously, to ask what's going on at Twitter with respect to this censorship push. So this is a big battle. I don't know if Elon Musk is going to win, but it's a battle worth having. It's a discussion worth having, and it exposes who's on whose side in terms of the First Amendment and free speech. And you see how quickly the big media has come down against Elon Musk and pretending that what he's doing is controversial because he's against censorship. I mean, that's where we are with the big media. They're promoting censorship, not of just Trump, not of just Republicans or controversial conservatives like Alex Jones. It's everyone. If you say the wrong things on elections, on COVID, on this crazed critical theory as it relates to race, sexual identity, etc., they'll come after you. And Elon Musk, God bless him, he sees what's happening and he's concerned about his country. And he's putting his money where his mouth is on this, and he's going to be viciously attacked. So we're going to do what we can do, but you should be tracking this and doing what you can do. I mean, for instance, if you're have investments with some of these big funds that are invested in Twitter, share your concerns.